Today is Wednesday, February 19th, 2020. Coming up on Roland Martin Unfiltered. Big debate night in Las Vegas. Mike Bloomberg will take the stage for the first time. Ooh, it's going to be quite an interesting one. We'll break it down. In Syracuse, student protesters are being suspended, but there are no reprimands for the students who actually have committed hate crimes. That makes no sense. An appeals court just ruled that Florida cannot require felons to pay fines and fees to vote. Also, Donald Trump pardoned 11 folks yesterday, most of them white-collar criminals. I wonder if Kwame Kilpatrick is going to get a pardon. Uh-oh, interesting. Trayvon Martin murderer George Zimmerman has filed a lawsuit against Elizabeth Warren and Pete Buttigieg because he actually says he's hurt. They call him a white supremacist. Get over it. And Bowie State University has opened a free food pantry for the students, the first of its kind. It's time to bring the funk and roll them out unfiltered. Let's go.
He's got it. Whatever the miss, he's on it. Whatever it is, he's got the scoop, the fact, the find. And when it breaks, he's right on time and it's rolling. Best believe he's knowing. Putting it down from sports to news to politics. With entertainment just for kicks, he's rolling. It's on go, y'all. It's Roland Martin, rolling with Roland now. He's funky, he's fresh, he's real, the best, you know he's Roland Martin now.
All right, folks, tonight's debate in Las Vegas should be quite interesting. The candidates on the stage will be Senator Bernie Sanders, Vice President Joe Biden, Senator Elizabeth Warren, former New York Mayor Mike Bloomberg, former South Bend, Indiana Mayor Pete Buttigieg, and Senator Amy Klobuchar. It's going to be a big night, of course, the Nevada primary taking place on Saturday. Then, of course, next Tuesday is going to be the debate in Charleston, South Carolina, sponsored by the Congressional Black Caucus Institute, airing on CBS. And then, of course, the voting in South Carolina. Now, you know everything is going to be all about Bloomberg tonight. The first time he's going to be on the debate stage. Joining us right now is Teresa Lundy, principal founder, TML Communications, A. Scott Bolden, former chair, National Bar Association PAC. All right, folks, here's the deal here. I think I've been saying this. Obviously, Bernie Sanders is vaulted to the lead in Nevada. Vice President Joe Biden is second. You see what's happening there. What you also have, of course,
fading.
they'll be jockeying. No, he's not fading. No, he's not fading because, frankly, the other candidates are so far down. It's really him and Sanders at the top. But I keep saying this. I really believe that the person who really needs to kill tonight is Elizabeth Warren.
I agree. I think Elizabeth Warren has been, she had her moment, and I'm not sure where the rest of her moments are going to go. So I really do believe early on in the conversation, you know, she had some sparks. I know locally she's been really hitting the ground, but I'm not sure, you know, unless there's something a little bit different in her policy that she wants to do, or I'm just not feeling the Warren buzz that it was before.
So if you have Elizabeth Warren that has something like 35,000 volunteers around this country, and she is pounding the pavement, she's got a plan for everything, and she's not moving, or she's moving in the other direction, that means something about her campaign, something about her is not connecting or resonating with the voters to the point where she's expanding her base. If she's not expanding her base and she's going in the other direction, she needs to have a big night, but she also needs to stop attacking Bloomberg for investing his own money in this campaign. They're crying about his money, but money doesn't buy votes. The common denominator is still voting, and because she's going in the other direction, she needs to have a different message. Otherwise, she sounds like she's complaining, and that's for Bernie, too.
Eugene Craig, the reason why Scott is wrong is because here's the deal.
I'm wrong?
Only 2 states have voted. Who is third in delegates? Elizabeth Warren. So this whole idea that she's going backwards, it's simply
Polling says it is.
It's simply not true. The point I'm making is, if you look at the New Hampshire debate, of the late deciding people, Amy Klobuchar got almost a third of those folks because of her debate performance. Again, previous debates, Warren sort of fell by the wayside or got lost in all the back and forth. Tom Steyer's not going to be on the stage tonight. I do believe also her strong suit has been going after Wall Street, going after big money. That's where she that's where she really became known prior to coming to the United States Senate That, to me, is going to be the opportunity tonight. Bloomberg, based upon what we're already reading, his folks are going to be pretty much, I'm just going to just brush off everybody.
Yeah, and I think, look, she's in a unique position here where she actually is collapsing right now.
She is.
She's collapsing. I have to agree with Scott here that she's collapsing. And I do think that she and others are going to walk into a landmine field of trying to attack Bloomberg on his cash when everybody on that stage has accepted cash from Bloomberg in one way or another.
Oh, and here's the other thing.
The reason
raise money. What's the difference between raising $1 billion and spending your own $1 billion?
There's no difference between raising $1 billion.
Still need both. That's the common denominator.
Actually, with somebody like Elizabeth Warren who runs on, hey, let's get corporate interests out of politics, let's get big corporate special interest dollars out of politics. You want somebody like Bloomberg who says, hey, listen, I'm beholden to nobody except myself. It's my own dollars at hand. But let's take it a step further. Look, I'm a Republican here, but one thing I can appreciate is somebody like Michael Bloomberg coming in and stepping up for black mayors across the country and helping them get across the finish line. Black DAs helping them get across the finish line. One of the reasons we actually saw impeachment is because of Bloomberg deploying his dollars and helping take back the House.
And he's got to fit back with that.
And the thing is
how
this,
he's invested his money.
And the thing is this, right? If the Bernie bros or Big Liz's folk want to hit him on this, where was Bernie and Liz when folk were trying to take back the House and take back governorships and take state houses in its midterm cycle? Bernie wasn't deploying his operation, and Liz wasn't deploying her operation. Joe was out there, and Bloomberg was deploying his dollars.
But Teresa, the reason why it makes smart politics to go after the amount of money Bloomberg is throwing in is because it speaks to the whole issue of rich interest, in essence, buying elections. The reality is the reason Bernie Sanders is where he is right now, that's been his message.
Absolutely.
I mean, to act as somehow that hasn't been the case, the reason Bernie Sanders has such fervent supporters is because that has been the biggest, most important thing where he touts average donation being anywhere from $19 to $27. Teresa.
And so that's why we have to really say Bernie and Elizabeth Warren has to stay focused on that message. If they veer off of that message, I fear that they're going to lose a part of their base, of which that's been keeping them sustainable this entire time.
But it's a false narrative.
Hold on,
One second, let her finish.
Thank you, Roland. So we also have to remember.
You never say that to me when I'm on the show.
Get over it.
So we also have to remember, even through the town hall that happened on CNN yesterday, there was a very particular and direct question that went to Bernie Sanders, which was very clear, and I forget the young woman's name, but she was like, if you win the Democratic nominee the Democratic nominee, will you accept
and he never
Michael Bloomberg? He got so, it was like almost like a backup statement.
Well, listen. Bernie Sanders has billionaires as co-chairs of his campaign.
Exactly.
Ben and Jerry are billionaires.
Right.
If Bernie and Liz and some of these other holier-than-thou people want to disavow big dollars,
really?
give the checks back.
Nobody's going to get the checks back.
To their contributors. Because they're trying to get to $1 billion.
Give the max out
trying to get to $1 billion.
Give the max out checks back. If you're so holier than thou,
here's the deal.
Don't accept max out donations.
Got it.
Elizabeth Warren has a super PAC that's going up on air this weekend. Disavow your super PAC if you're so holier than thou.
But here's the second part of that. Is Mike Bloomberg doing anything? Listen to your listening audience. Is he doing anything that's illegal?
No.
Immoral?
No.
Unlawful?
No.
If the other candidates had $1 billion to spend, are you telling me that they shouldn't be spending it? So you're complaining about the handicap, not about buying votes. You can't buy votes with money. You can buy name recognition. You can buy airtime. But the common denominator is still voting. What are you mad about? What are you mad about?
1 second. It is still a smart strategy when you look at the number of people who do not like Citizens United.
Right.
The number of people who do not like dark money, the number of people who oppose how money has overtaken politics.
But that's not
1 second. I'm not done. I'm not done. I am not done. I am not done. When you're running, it's about how do I set myself apart from the other candidates.
Right.
You have Joe Biden, who is dependent upon large donors. You have Pete Buttigieg, who's dependent upon large donors. Again, when you look at what Sanders, how he has been able to rise, when you look at what made Elizabeth Warren who really became a United States senator. When you look, it was looking at Wall Street big money interests. That still resonates among lots of people. But again, the other thing I think is going to happen tonight, and this is where, again, I keep bringing up Warren for this reason. Vice President Joe Biden wrote the 1994 crime bill.
Exactly.
Senator Bernie Sanders, even though he spoke on the floor about the negative aspects of the crime bill, he still voted for it. Mayor Pete Buttigieg has his own issues in terms of African Americans in the police department in South Bend, Indiana. Senator Amy Klobuchar has to answer to the questions when it comes to who she's prosecuted. Bloomberg, stop and frisk, redlining comments, housing, homelessness, all of that sort of stuff. Again, the one person who can go after all of them tonight on all of those issues is Warren.
She's got the Indian thing and Native American nonsense going on. She drove. Yeah, but
that's not. First of all, that's
gets tested
no.
for being a
That is not.
That's not even in the category of what we're talking about.
That is not a policy issue.
There we go.
Everybody else. I'm telling you tonight. I'm telling you tonight's debate and Tuesday's debate. I'm telling you right now. Tonight's debate and Tuesday's debate could very well change the fortunes up or down for any candidate. Joe Biden also has to, he must look alive. Not just look alive.
He ain't got it in him.
He cannot have another lackluster performance. He can't.
Right.
But what does he
can't.
do? That's his debate style. What are the top three things you would recommend Biden change his debate style?
I do agree with you. Policy does matter, and one of the great Republican adages, personnel is policy. And the one thing that we cannot deny as black people when it comes to these presidential campaigns, the one campaign and candidate that has stepped up for black America when it comes to hiring black consultants, when it comes to hiring black talent, when it comes to supporting black media, is Michael Bloomberg.
Exactly.
The DNC isn't doing it. These other candidates and campaigns that have the dollars to do it aren't doing it. The only one that did it was Castro when it comes to hiring senior black staff or at extreme senior level, and by defining that as decision makers. So if we're going to have a conversation about policy, personnel is policy. And when it comes to black America, what matters to black America, Bloomberg is leading the way.
That's right. But I want to talk about, you talk about Elizabeth Warren. I want to talk about what Bloomberg has to do. You know, when you're doing an oral argument in federal court, if you've got a losing case, or if you're on appeal, you get a lot of questions from the justices. Yeah. You just do, right? And either you're gonna slip punches, take a punch, and throw a right cross, politically speaking, or from a litigation standpoint, litigation-wise speaking, that tests your mettle, and you will evolve. We will see what type of debate he's prepared to have. Because when you're under attack, that's when you have the greatest opportunity to show your chops. Not when you just, when there are no questions your way and you just present.
That's why I'm so
Bloomberg has got to be able to take a punch, slip a punch, and throw a right cross, because the world will be watching. They're going to dump on him or try to. Yeah. And depending on whether he connects with that right cross counter punch, politically speaking, they're going to walk away. They're either going to keep dumping or they're going to stop dumping on him.
Look,
and so $60 billion in the bank, he ought to have prepared well enough to throw that right counter.
He has to expect the stop and frisk is going to be hit, thrown down, and probably within the first 5 to 10 minutes.
Exactly.
Of the debate. But what
maybe by the question.
But maybe by the question. But what he has to come out with first and foremost is that the current occupant of the White House currently believes in stop and frisk, currently believes in police brutality, and currently believes, as recently as 2 weeks ago,
but that doesn't make him better.
I'm not done. Murdering drug dealers. All right. Secondly, here he has to pivot to his very, very robust criminal justice reform plan.
Yeah.
I mean, I think he's the only one on the record.
And his investments in reformation.
Only one on the record ready to come on and cut the current prison population in half over the next decade.
But here's the deal. A president can't cut the prison population in half.
Absolutely can.
No.
The president via Department of Justice dollars.
He can sign legislation to do it.
What kind of support goes to the state level?
Again,
what kind of policy writers attached to that?
Only way to cut prison levels on the state level, it happens on the state level.
I agree with you.
So here's a piece. So one second.
That's just funding.
But the president can influence those state policies.
I'm fully aware what the president can influence.
Okay.
What I also know is states still have all of that power to do so. Yeah. So this whole idea of terms of what he wants to cut. Look, here's the piece here. He still has to contend with the fact of 5 million stop and frisk stops during his mayoral tenure, and 95% did nothing. Now, you can sit here and all of a sudden...
Is that going to be a litmus test for him? That's
Again,
your litmus test?
No, first of all, let me be clear. I didn't say that was a litmus test. What I said is he has to address that. He can't just be, well, you know what, I mean, you know, I apologize. No, because the reality is, as late as September of 2019, he was defending it. He only apologized in November. But the other pieces is here. It was very interesting in the last debate. It was very interesting when they brought up criminal justice reform. I was very surprised that nobody... When Joe was sitting here, I passed this, and I passed that, and I passed this, and I passed that. Not a single person said, and you also passed a 1994 crime bill, which you keep defending. And I was sitting at home going, is anybody going to hit Joe on this? And nobody did. Again, I think what has to happen is, either if you're a candidate, if you want to make a move, you can't wait for the moderators to do it.
No, you got to do it now.
You're going to have... I go back to that last debate. Tom Steyer, when he jumped in there and tried to make Biden apologize for one of his supporters in South Carolina, saying that black candidates were only supporting Tom Steyer because he was paying them. Tom Steyer forced the conversation to the issue of race. And it went on, and George Stephanopoulos allowed the conversation to continue. This is where, if I'm one of those candidates, I ain't waiting on on whoever's about. I ain't waiting on Chuck Todd or that's the whole.
Just pivot and go for it. Just pivot and go for it.
Because again, though, if you're Klobuchar, if you're Buttigieg, if you're Elizabeth Warren, you don't have a damn thing to lose. At the end of the day, look, you're way down in Nevada. You gotta go. I mean, this whole like all the people talk about. Oh no, I think Elizabeth Warren should keep going with a unifying message. I'm like. No. Because when you're in a dogfight, I got to swing. And I'm going to come out and swing. That's what I'm going to do.
So with Bloomberg, if I'm advising Bloomberg in regard to stop and frisk, the reality is I've invested in reformative justice programs. He's got to respond, not just by apologizing, but he's got to talk about reparative justice. Equity. What he's prepared to do to make up for those 5,000 stop and frisk that some people died as a result of being arrested and being held at Rikers Island.
And how hard is it him to say, I was wrong?
Exactly.
See,
there's power in that.
To simply say,
I'm going to repair.
Simply say, I thought I was right. But looking at the numbers, looking at, I was wrong. And
that will separate from the field.
And he also has to say, and unlike this president, I'll admit when I was wrong. And this is what I'm going to do to repair.
That's the reparative.
And I think that's in addition to... Okay, go ahead.
But we're used to these people with their egos never wanting to say, I was wrong.
I would say this, if he gets in that stage and power in admitting you're wrong, he will set himself apart from the rest of the field. Because every last one of them, when they are faced with their track record, it goes to, they go into defensive mode rather than essentially, hey, felt, feel, found, you know. This is what happened. Let me fix it. You know.
And here's the other deal.
And it connotes authenticity.
Yes.
And here's also what hasn't come up. I'm telling you, if I'm Warren or any one of those candidates, I will turn to them and I would say, if all 12 of your years, you, Mayor, fought the Central Park 5 settlement, and thank God Bill de Blasio was elected, because the only reason those 5 young men were able to have any financial recourse was because you were no longer the mayor.
See,
I mean, that's not fair because that's a very complicated case.
No, it's not.
There were a lot of politics in that case, and there was still evidence against those individuals.
No, it's not.
Until somebody else came forward.
No, that is wrong.
You don't know what I know about that case.
But you're wrong.
You don't know what I know about that case. So we can't talk.
Okay, but you're wrong. The reason you're wrong.
I'm right because I was the mayor. I was the mayor.
They were released.
Yeah.
They were released long after. Bloomberg fought the settlement after the judge had already cleared the young man.
Because it wasn't clear that they were entitled to those funds, regardless of the judge's order. And by the way, the judge's order was very limiting.
Let's be clear.
And so now it gets real complicated. So you don't know as much as I know about the mayor.
One mayor fought it. One mayor signed the deal.
Well, we laid the foundation for de Blasio to be able to pay them.
No, he didn't.
Yeah, we did. We set it up that way.
No, he didn't. He fought it. Bloomberg fought it.
I'm just role playing. I'm role playing.
Yeah, you role playing.
I'm role playing, people.
This is why we retain Scott.
No, but it's very simple. But again, though, my deal is that is a recent story because of the Ava DuVernay Netflix movie. My whole deal, and you turn to him and say, "Will you apologize to the exonerated 5?"
I'm going to do that through reparative justice programs that in my criminal justice reform.
Just apologize to the 5.
I was wrong.
And then I would say,
and I'm gonna repair.
And then I would say,
now what?
Then I would say,
the wind out of your arguments.
Then I would say, you're filibustering this issue.
No, I'm not.
I would say you sound just like Donald Trump.
My goodness.
Who doubled down again? No,
all billionaires aren't the same.
Yes,
all billionaires aren't the same.
First of all,
you can't compare
one billionaire, one
Donald
isn't.
Trump.
Again,
I'm a good billionaire.
One's a billionaire, one isn't.
Exactly.
I would hit him on that. I would hit him on that. I would hit him on that because what
Tom is nice.
You have to score. You have to score.
Well, this fair.
But the other thing is this, Roland.
You can't airbox.
Let me tell you something. They get past those two things, and Mike comes out and just says and apologizes for him. They ain't got nothing else to hit him on after that.
Exactly.
Right.
Ain't nothing else to hit him on after that.
But he has to
They get past
admit
those
it,
two
though.
things. There's nothing else to hit him on after that.
Well, no. First of all, you can still
You gonna hit him on redlining?
No, you can still deal with redlining. You can still deal with housing. You can still deal with not desegregating New York schools.
Yep.
I mean, it's a long line. Also,
New York got a lot of problems.
And being in Nevada, and being in Nevada, you can hit him on labor contracts in New York City.
Black people can't afford politically to have a purity test or a litmus test
I'm sorry.
on any of these candidates.
I said nothing about purity or litmus. What I said is, if I'm running against,
you can't afford it.
If I'm running against another candidate, my job is to separate myself from you.
So you're gonna do Trump's job.
My job for him? When you run in the primary,
really? So
that's why it's called a primary.
You're gonna cut each other up, and then Trump wins, right?
That's why I call running.
Pull some punches. Pull some punches for America's sake. Beating Trump is the #1 obligation, the #1 priority for the Democratic nominee.
Unless
you got to win the primaries.
But if I do as much damage, more damage.
The thing is this, I disagree with Scott here. I'm gonna tell you, wait.
Why am I cutting everybody up?
Because it's called a primary.
I disagree with Scott here.
Respect for the Democratic Party.
You want everything to come out in the primary. You want to be able, you want to hone in your defenses during the primary. And I'm gonna tell you this: the RNC, Trump victory, Trump for America, DJ, they are going to hit whoever the nominee is with everything in a nuclear bomb.
You don't cut each other up before you have to. You cut Trump up. I'm not saying you don't have a robust debate, but you certainly can't, for example, make part of your argument be critical of Joe Biden because of his association, for example, with Barack Obama, which we saw in an earlier debate. My point is there's a way to have a robust debate, but you don't need to be doing GOP talking points against each other to help yourself win.
It's the fight
Teresa, it's real simple. If you're running against 5 other people, it's called you run to win.
And let's be
Teresa.
And let's be clear. Before it was 5, it was 12, then it was 20. So before we even got to this 5, everybody had to cut each other in order to get here. So now that we're here, we want the best of the best to understand what their past situations and the policies they put forth in the past. They are. This is policy. If we're talking about what you did in the past,
what did I say?
if we talk about what you did in the past, then we can't talk about the future. So we got to talk about the future.
The other thing is
I have a problem with you bleeding heart liberals on this panel.
Who said I was a liberal? I'm moderate. See, that's the assumption of the
Eugene, stop talking, Eugene.
The other thing is this, right?
Tell you something.
The other thing,
Eugene, stop talking.
Every last one of the Democrats running has a race issue.
Exactly.
Precisely for the reason that.
Will you stop talking? Let him finish. He'll let you co-sign.
It's your show.
Eugene, go. Eugene, go.
The era that we're in right now is not the era we were in a decade ago. We're in the post Trayvon Martin, not post, well, current Trayvon Martin, current Black Lives Matter era, right? And so the discussion around criminal justice reform is one that's been formulated over the last roughly 8 years or so. So, you know, and I think a lot of these candidates have to walk in with that understanding of, hey, look, what was the norm during the time that I served in X, Y, and Z was the norm. I apologize for what happened, what I took part in, the system that I took part in. but this is how I make it better. And that
That's
goes
called
back to
their racial baggage.
I
their
agree.
Criminal justice baggage.
Yeah.
They're not going to apologize, but if they have a reparative justice program, that's much more
I
sellable
agree.
than
or
than I was
Simple
wrong.
is it
or
to
a robust
apologize?
economic justice
Why
program.
can't they apologize? Why? How simple is it to
because you
apologize?
won't find one political consultant that's in their ear that will tell them that there is power in authenticity, integrity,
This
and
one.
apology, and it is.
This one.
Are they fearless enough to do it and to count on the American people to accept that apology that's empowering and to move forward and still ask for their vote?
Absolutely.
Now that's a powerful response.
There's
That
a model
is.
for it. This guy named Bill Clinton that, may or may not have been impeached and had his...
He was impeached,
He
but he wasn't
convicted.
He wasn't convicted.
He actually apologized after his impeachment and saw
Exactly.
record high approval ratings in
Exactly.
the country afterwards.
So it can
But you
be
gotta
done.
be fearless to do it.
It
And
can
most
be
of
done.
these candidates aren't
Maybe they'll do it
are
when
not
they get
fearless
the
enough
nomination.
to do it.
But the point is, it's now
Apologize
you
when
want
you get the
candidates to be fearless.
That's right.
But then you were complaining when I said you're a candidate, you should go after your opposition.
I'm saying don't
Oh, no,
cut up the
listen, I
Democratic
believe the
Party
Game of
or your
Thrones, but
Democratic because you're going to
anybody
need
can get
them.
for the
The big
nomination
difference.
guys.
No, here's the deal, though.
If you can't see the
Here's deal.
difference, I can explain it to you.
I'm gonna tell you
Hold on.
The reason you have Donald Trump right now is
One
because-
second.
Oh, here we go.
Donald Trump didn't care about cutting up other
And that's the
Republicans.
issue. That's the issue.
And guess what?
They all were playing presidential politics because Donald
Precisely.
Trump said, let's go ground and pound.
And so here's a piece. Democrats, if you want to win, you got to swing.
Yep.
All that Michelle Obama, we go high when they go low. No.
Nah, the words
on
of-
That was early on in
Not
the race.
personality.
That was when it was
Charlemagne the
sweaty.
God. They go low, you take their ass to the ground.
Hey.
Y'all not listening to
Kick and
me.
drag.
I want to be heard.
No, we're not listening
I want
to
to be
you.
heard.
What about me? I'm trying to be heard.
First of all, we're not listening to you. That's actually a good
You
thing.
don't listen, period,
No,
though.
no,
You
actually,
don't.
I do. Just don't
You
listen
could be
to you.
wrong
Don't
about
listen.
some things.
I'm not.
What have you been wrong about in your political
I'm not.
life, in your political thinking?
I'm not.
Name the top 3 times you've been wrong.
I was
Number
wrong.
1.
I was wrong booking you on the show today.
Oh.
When we come back, Roland Martin Unfiltered back in a moment. You walked into that
No,
one.
I didn't.
You want to check out Roland Martin Unfiltered? YouTube.com/Roland S. Martin. And subscribe to our YouTube channel. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real. It's Roland Martin Unfiltered. See that name right there? Roland Martin Unfiltered. Like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. That's YouTube.com/Roland S. Martin. And don't forget to turn on your notifications so when we go live, you'll know it.
You are not judged from the height you have risen, but from the depth you have climbed. Abolitionist and autobiographer Frederick Douglass.
Did you not hear me? All right, folks, so you're looking to enhance your leadership or that of your team in 2020. Join our newest online course and mastermind group, How Successful People Think. Dr. Jackie Hood Martin will be your guide as you learn timeless leadership principles to apply to daily living. Scott, you should be registering. Offer expires February 28th. Register for or start the online course today by www.live2lead.com/Leesburg. Lead.com/Leesburg. All right, folks, in Syracuse. Remember we had the students on, and we were talking about the protesting of hate crimes on that campus. Well, now the students are complaining by saying that those protesting racism are actually being suspended. The group Not Against SU staged an occupation on Monday night inside of Krause-Heinz Hall, administrative building where Chancellor Kent Syverud's office are located. The students who have called for his resignation live streamed the protest on social media and also posted the suspension letters they received. The letter reads in part, "This is a warning that unauthorized presence at Krause-Heinz Hall outside its regular operating hours of 7 a.m. to 9 p.m. is in violation of the campus disruption policy. Failure to comply with this directive will result in disciplinary charges through the Code of Student Conduct and may result in an interim suspension from the university. The university has suspended roughly 30 students for protesting white supremacy, hate crimes that students say have not been properly dealt with by school officials. While suspended, students who live on campus are only allowed in the dormitories and dining halls, but not in any other Syracuse University-owned property. Any student found in violation of this could be arrested for trespass." What's crazy here is, Teresa, is that the students who committed the hate crimes, none of them suspended, but they're suspending the protesters.
Right.
Sort of weird.
Well,
Well, it's a disgrace. And I think the students were absolutely right. But again, I think we need to, this is the first time I'm actually seeing this today, so I'm a little shocked because this is the type of news that has to keep going nationally. So we can start having those dialogues and probably doing something a little bit more. But obviously it's a disgrace.
Well, there's a dichotomy here that's not being discussed. That is, the administration would argue that these controlled protests by white nationalists or those who have committed these hate crimes are either under investigation or otherwise. In regard to the students, the administration doesn't want the counter-protests, and so they're threatening to arrest them for trespass. If I were the students, I'd press the issue the way you're pressing it on this package and then get arrested for trespass, right? And get to court and make it an even bigger issue that would fly in the face of the administration's position. The administration wants to intimidate them and control their protests or reduce their protest, eliminate it, as opposed to them forming, protesting in those areas where they've been told they can't, get arrested, and then try the case, if you will.
I think that's a great idea.
Try the case, because that will force the administration to put their policies and that comparative between the hate crime, those people who commit the hate crime, it will be a comparative in court where a jury or a judge will have to render a decision. The administration doesn't want that.
I bet you they changed their policies after that.
The administration absolutely does not want that. Federal courts across the country, especially over the last decade, 15 or so years, have ruled time and time and time again that essentially free speech zones, which, you know, Syracuse is kind of de facto trying to put in place there when trying to control protests, are unconstitutional.
Yeah, why isn't civil obedience a First Amendment issue?
Are unconstitutional.
Just like the hate crimes, they would argue, which is hate speech, would argue they have a right
and I would take it a step further. I would take it a step further. If the university is acting slow and moving slow in these hate crimes, I do what the folk down in North Carolina did with the Silent Sam statue. You go after the major donors of the endowment, and you put in front of them and say, listen, are you going to continue to give major gifts to this university that is covering and hiding and not actively taking up cause against hate crimes that are taking place on its campus? And once you start hitting that endowment, then you'll see action
You can do
from the
that,
university.
or sue them for discrimination, or sue them for uneven enforcement of these First Amendment issues.
I mean, if there was only there's only a high-powered corporate lawyer here that could help him with that lawsuit.
But if you have the retainer, I'd be happy to do it.
I'm sorry. You know one?
What is into you today?
No, I'm just asking. Going to a break. When we come back, we're going to talk about Florida and Amendment 4. That's next on Roland Martin Unfiltered. You want to support Roland Martin Unfiltered? Be sure to join our Bring the Funk fan club. Every dollar that you give to us supports our daily digital show. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real as Roland Martin Unfiltered. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered daily digital show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Our goal is to get 20,000 of our fans contributing $50 each for the whole year. You can make this possible. RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. All right, so a lot of y'all are always asking me about some of the pocket squares that I wear. Now, Robert don't have one on. Now, I don't particularly like the white pocket squares. I don't like even the silk ones. And so I was reading GQ magazine a number of years ago, and I saw this guy who had this pocket square here, and it looks like a flower. This is called a shibori pocket square. This is how the Japanese manipulate the fabric to create this sort of flower effect. So I'm going to take it out and then place it in my hand so you see what it looks like. And I said, man, this is pretty cool. And so I tracked down, it took me a year to find a company that did it. And so they make about 47 different colors. And so I love them because, again, as men, we don't have many accessories to wear, so we don't have many options. And so this is really a pretty cool pocket square. Now, what I love about this here is you saw when it's in the pocket, you know, it gives you that flower effect like that. But if I wanted to also, unlike other, because if I flip it and turn it over, it actually gives me a different type of texture. And so therefore, it gives me a different look. So there you go. So if you actually want to get one of these shibori pocket squares, we have them in 47 different colors. All you got to do is go to RolandSMartin.com/pocket squares. So it's RolandSMartin.com pocket squares. All you got to do is go to my website and you can actually get this. Now, for those of you who are members of our Bring the Funk fan club, there's a discount for you to get our pocket squares. That's why you also got to be a part of our Bring the Funk fan club. And so that's what we want you to do. And so it's pretty cool. So if you want to jazz your look up, you can do that. In addition, y'all see me with some of the feather pocket squares. My sister, who's a designer, she actually makes these. They're all custom made. So when you also go to the website, you can also order one of the customized feather pocket squares right there at rolandsmartin.com/pocket squares. So please do so. And of course, it goes to support the show. And again, if you're a Bring the Funk fan club member, you get a discount. This is why you should join the fan club. All right, y'all. Federal appeals court has ruled that Florida can't bar felons who serve their time from registering to vote simply because they haven't paid all fines and fees stemming from their cases. A three-judge panel, the 11th U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals on Wednesday, upheld a Tallahassee federal judge's decision that the law implementing Amendment 4 amounted to an unfair poll tax. Amendment 4 was passed overwhelmingly by voters in 2018 to allow as many as 1.6 million formerly incarcerated folks to regain their right to vote. Joining me right now to talk about this is Connor Maxwell, Senior Policy Analyst for Race and Ethnicity Policy at the Center for American Progress. All right, Connor, so this has been going back and forth. The governor, Ron DeSantis, he wanted a ruling from the state Supreme Court. They affirmed the bill passed by the legislature. Now the federal courts are intervening.
Yeah, absolutely. So as you said, back in 2018, voters overwhelmingly passed a measure to restore voting rights to people with prior felony convictions. This affected over 1.5 million Floridians, disproportionately black and brown people. This stemmed from a long history in Florida of measures enacted to prevent people of color from voting. And once voters enacted it, Governor DeSantis led an effort to undermine that ballot initiative to impose these measures requiring people with prior felony convictions to pay off fines and fees in order to vote. As you said, a federal district court ruled that Florida could not hold people, could not impose a poll. An 11th Circuit Court of Appeals recently upheld that. So now it will likely be appealed to the Supreme Court, but hopefully, we're really optimistic here that come November 2020, over a million people with prior felony convictions in Florida will finally be able to cast those ballots on Election Day.
And what also jumps out here, obviously, this is been going back and forth. I mean, look, Republicans in Florida, they don't want to see these folks casting ballots because this could literally flip the state.
I think that's absolutely what their intention was behind this. As I said before, folks in Florida have a long history of trying to prevent black people from voting. Rather than going into these communities, trying to appeal to them, trying to help them to find jobs, housing, opportunities, they instead tried to suppress their vote, keep them from the ballot box in order to maintain control of the state. So it's a long history here, and they're only going to continue to push it further. And what's really scary about this ruling here, Roland, is that even if the ruling stands in the long term, it's still up to the individuals to prove they're unable to pay back their fines and fees in order to get their civil rights back. And so and Florida will actually set those standards for what determines someone's ability to pay.
All right, then. Connor Maxwell, we really appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much.
All right, folks, this is where, for me, I hope there are other ballot initiatives that take place around the country to change state constitutions like they did in Florida.
Listen, this is major. 1.6 million voters that now have their full...
It's a game changer.
It's a game changer. Full franchise back. I think Republicans should probably be terrified. I think Democrats need to organize. But what it amounted to a poll tax. It amounted to an illegal poll tax. And I'm glad this is the power of the courts. This is the importance of having a good federal judiciary right here in play. Could you imagine if this is the 11th Circuit was fully stacked with Trump appointees right now? I mean, you would have seen this very, very racist law.
What's interesting about this, though, is that the original legislation was silent on fines, and that in some subsequent litigation, the group representing these 1.6 million felons, or the interest groups, conceded at one point the silence, and that the fines and other levies that were put forth, because they weren't covered, that they may have some exposure. Watch for the legislature, depending on what the makeup is of the Florida legislature. I can't remember.
It's as red as that wall.
Watch them, because I always thought that this case, what would happen, Roland, was that the legislature would take it back up and then add that more specific language into the legislation and then try to push it through. Here, the plaintiffs were able to convince a federal court and state court that the sentence was the sentence, and that if I could vote, if these 1.6 could vote, then they could vote, and that includes if they hadn't paid their fines. And so it's a huge victory for that group.
But the question is now going to be with, I can't remember if Florida's on Super Tuesday or the week after, with the Florida primary approaching as swiftly as it is, are they going to go back to the federal court to get an injunction for extended voter registration?
So they could appeal it to the Supreme Court?
Just to have an injunction to keep the window for voter registration open. Now that you have essentially 1.6 million people that may not be registered to vote and should have the opportunity to vote, and essentially we're 3 weeks, maybe a month out from the Florida primary, so
well, it also depends what is the financial barrier for that if they were to extend it for them.
I mean, they could do same-day registration right there at the polls.
Well, vigilance is the key.
but that's still a cost factor for the state.
The justice groups and the Democratic groups who are behind this and this huge victory, they got to stay vigilant.
Right.
Because the GOP in these states, let me tell you something, there's a reason that the GOP, state and local and federal, that they suppress voting rights for people of color. They know that when we vote, we vote for Democrats. We win. So this policy or these efforts statewide, especially across the South, are for a purpose. Because Republicans cannot win without suppressing the black and brown vote.
I keep trying to tell Republicans, if they want to actually get black votes, stop suppressing the vote.
Exactly. They come up with an urban agenda.
I'm just letting you know, black people ain't going to roll with you.
Right.
Letting you know. To stay in Florida, folks, George Zimmerman has filed a lawsuit against presidential candidates Senator Elizabeth Warren and Mayor Pete Buttigieg, who he says defamed him while paying tribute to Trayvon Martin on what would have been Martin's 25th birthday. A lawsuit claims the candidates defamed Zimmerman for political gain in misguided and malicious attempts to bolster their standings among African-American voters, all at Zimmerman's expense. It also alleges that Warren and Buttigieg connected Martin's shooting death with gun violence, while he claims he was acting in self-defense when he killed Martin. They both tweeted about Martin on February 5th, the day that would have been Martin's 25th birthday. Of course, you see the tweets. How many 25th birthdays have been stolen from us by white supremacy, gun violence, prejudice, and fear? Now, nowhere in there was George Zimmerman name even mentioned. So, what's this punk ass talking about?
Okay, so he's going to lose this lawsuit. You know, as a medium veteran, that Zimmerman's a public figure, right? And so it has to be purposeful. And the drafter or the communicator has to know of its falsity, and they defame that individual anyway. It's the highest standard of the First Amendment lawsuit, the highest standard. He doesn't meet it barely. So what's he looking for? Some type of settlement? They're not going to settle with him because if this stays in the media, this helps those presidential candidates. But it was Zimmerman neutral. These tweets were Zimmerman neutral. And so I'm not sure who he got to file this lawsuit, but he certainly got to file
Oh, I'm sure he found somebody in the Trump organization to do that.
I'm so sick of his ass.
I'm pretty sure he could find some pro-Confederate lawyer that filed a lawsuit.
Yeah, but you got to worry about Rule 11. And Rule 11 says you have to have a good faith basis and a viable argument, viable claims in order to file in federal court or state court. If not, you could be penalized or you could be fined or even your license, quite frankly, under Rule 11 sanctions if the court finds that this was filed in bad faith or you did not have a colorable claim. So the lawyer who did this or the lawyers who did this, maybe they know more than we know in the media right now or what's been public, but it's hard to find a lawyer to do something when you have this Rule 11 piece in place.
I just find it fascinating that out of all of the tweets that happened during the Trayvon Martin's anniversary, he chose the presidential candidate.
Yeah, because
Like,
You want the attention.
Well,
I get it, but I just we need to put that out there.
If you're judgment proof or you're a member of the public and you attack Zimmerman, it's not worth filing a lawsuit.
Yeah.
Right.
But if you have access to money or the plaintiff believes that you are sitting on a pot of money and that you could settle, then you're a much more viable target.
Well, how does this guy still walk on the streets is the only question I have.
Listen,
That's more complicated than
I was
stuff. We don't have
about to
enough
say,
time. Roland, what do we have next? You want me to ask next? I'll ask the next question. Okay, so tell me what the GOP is saying.
wow.
Tell me what the GOP is saying.
I know damn well.
about Zimmerman.
I know damn well ain't nobody listening what Scott gotta say next. Nobody is listening
What's
to
next?
what Scott wants
What's
to talk
next?
about.
Let's talk about
But
something
let me
else
also,
next.
Scott
but
Bowles
again,
and Phil-
I
play
wanna
the theme song, Roland.
I want to get rid of. I'm sick and tired of George Zimmerman. All right, y'all. I'm tired. I'm like, go somewhere. Go under that rock where you supposed to be living.
God, he
All
gonna
right,
sue you.
Y'all gonna say you're
gonna
next,
sue you.
Roland. You're
He's gonna
you're
sue
next.
Yeah, go under that rock.
Well, the good thing, if he sues him, you got to defend
Yeah,
him.
go under a rock.
Oh,
Wow.
Roland's gonna have to pay a lot. For me to defend.
Wow, that's
Oh,
a
my
claim,
God.
a rock.
A lot. I ain't going to
All right, y'all. Yesterday, Donald Trump pardoned a number of folks, including Michael Milken. And I love all this drain and swamp, but he pardoned all these corrupt individuals, including former Illinois Governor Rod Blagojevich. And here's what's interesting. All of these people, Trump and all the rest of the other people said, you know what, it was just unfair. Rod Blagojevich got sentenced to 14 years. In fact, Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot gave an interview where she said that that likely was the longest ever for a political corruption. Well, that's actually not true. Also, Angela Stanton, Scott's buddy right there, who was on, of course, the show. She also had her felony conviction. She was pardoned as well. She, of course, is the adopted daughter of Alveda King, who, of course, is a big-time Trump supporter. But Mayor Lightfoot was wrong, because the reality is Kwame Kilpatrick, former mayor of Detroit, got 28 years in prison. So the question is this here, and I've been hearing for the last year that folks out of Detroit have been really pushing, not the last 2 years, pushing Trump on partnering or commuting Kwame Kilpatrick. Do you think Trump will try to use that as a play for black folks in Detroit?
Absolutely.
Maybe. The reality is all of these cases are different and in different jurisdictions, and they were state prosecutions. So with Kwame Kilpatrick, he may do it. That would be a shrewd.
No. They're not state. They're not state.
Not federal?
So Rod was federal.
Was Kwame state?
Rod
You're
was.
absolutely right. Some were state, some were federal.
Yeah, Rod. Yeah.
He could try that. The problem with Kilpatrick is this. He got those 28 years, not just because he was convicted of the corruption, but he was also he was violating court orders along the way. And at the sentencing, showing contrition and showing, apologizing to the court was not having it. I've appeared before that judge who sentenced Kwame Kilpatrick, and him violating it by going some of these orders in the interim of going to Canada without permission, violating probation, violating his bail obligations and stuff. I think, and what I've read, it played a lot into this sentence.
There's
one thing that it settles real quickly.
Kwame was
a state court,
no,
a state or federal case?
No, 1 second. It was in both. It was in both.
Okay.
It was in both. Violating probation was in state court.
Okay.
The 28 years came in federal court.
Okay. Okay.
So Trump could commute or pardon Kwame
the federal
Kilpatrick.
side.
The other thing is the money piece that was at issue. The higher the money piece is under the federal sentencing guidelines, she stayed within those 28 years.
Yeah.
I don't think she went above the guidelines because he was convicted of several criminal and corrupt violations.
No, not several. 24.
7 times.
There were 24 counts.
I will say this. I can see Trump absolutely using Kwame's case to try to make a play of things. They're willing to throw anything at the wall right now.
His white privilege won't let him do it.
But the other thing is, I think there's one thing we probably should highlight here. I know Milken and the corrupt police chief and whatnot, Carrick, got their parts of commutations. But I think probably the only thing that matter here is the 3 people that got pardons and commutations as a promise that he made to Alice Johnson. I'm not giving Trump, I don't give Trump credit for shit, but I do think this is probably something that should be highlighted. That there are 3 regular, ordinary people that got commutations and pardons as a promise that the president made to Alice Johnson when he released her.
How do you define that word?
Okay, should he get it, though? Should he get like, for instance, was 28 years too long? Was that too long of a prison sentence for Kwame Kilpatrick?
I will say this: murderers and people who committed manslaughter has gotten less. And I think when it comes to parity within the criminal justice system, I do think crimes of violating public trust are at the top of that chain, the top of that ladder. But do I think 28 years it is harsh.
28 years is far more time than most politicians get in these corruption cases.
William
What
Jefferson,
drove this narrative-
the former congressman in New Orleans, he got 13 years, and now a number of counts were thrown out later. Then eventually was free with time served, but he had 13 years. So the longest for corruption, the longest is for corruption is Kwame Kilpatrick.
But there are
28
a lot of
years.
factors. See, he
I
drove this
understand.
negative narrative that led to that 28 years.
Oh no, I know.
He gotten half.
No,
of that
I understand that.
Kwame
kept pissing the court off.
Put the two-way down, put the text messages down.
Exactly. Well,
No. He kept
going to Canada.
No. It wasn't even when he was just going to Canada. It wasn't even just that. It was
Sloppy.
It was when he said they're like, "Are you receiving money from friends?" No, I'm not. Here is a video of you getting Western Union $1,000 at Walmart.
Right.
I mean, it was like
Sloppy.
it was constant lying to the court.
Exactly.
And that
That'll
played
get you.
that
That'll
played a
get you.
huge role, I think, in why he also got 28 years. And so we'll see what happens whether or not Donald Trump.
You're in the system.
If you don't respect the court, the court doesn't
Exactly.
respect
But when
you.
you're in the system like that, you can't jaywalk.
Yeah.
You know, you cannot jaywalk. And, it's like my mother used to say, these defendants don't believe fat meat's greasy. The judge going to prove to you that fat meat's greasy.
Right.
And in Kilpatrick's case, she did.
Well, so we'll see. We'll see if all of these so-called rumors are going to actually happen. Go to my iPad.
What do you want to see?
Do you see it?
I don't see it.
Do you see it? All right. Y'all should be, I don't know, you should be able to see it.
There.
Let's pull it up. Let's see. Do we have it now? All right, let me know if we got it now. If you see it. So, where's Amy Klobuchar? I told y'all, I'm gonna call out Senator Amy Klobuchar every single day that she ignores black media and black voters. So since middle of January, we've been trying to, of course, get Senator Klobuchar on the show. Her people aren't even returning emails. We have emailed Tim Hogan, National Communications Director for Amy Klobuchar. We have emailed him. We've called him. No response whatsoever. I've heard from a couple other folks on our campaign who have passed on our notes to the communications team. Now, here's the deal. I told y'all yesterday, Washington Post did a story where they had to ask a former Democratic official for a list of black churches in South Carolina. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. If you're trying, I don't care who you are, you can look. At least Pete Buttigieg is making an effort to actually talk to black people. He actually has endorsements of African Americans. I don't know nobody black who's endorsed Amy Klobuchar.
Why do you care if she's 5th or 6th in the polls? And how do you know she's not talking to black media?
She's not.
She may not be talking to Roland Martin
because if you paid attention for the last several times I've done this, you would have known that multiple other black journalists have reached out to me who said thanks for calling her out because our calls have not gotten returned. Color of Change wanted her to do a podcast, their podcast. They said no, we can't do it at your office.
Okay.
They said you need to book a hotel room right next to the Capitol. I'm not done. Color of Change booked the hotel room next to the Capitol to do the podcast. Her people canceled, never rescheduled. Now I have talked to. Well, that you can whine about that all you want to, but the point I'm making is this: it does not matter if you are 5th or 6th. What I'm saying is this here: if you are a presidential candidate, then you are going to need. Or you're going to be required to talk to black folks.
Right.
I don't care who you are.
That's her issue. That's not your issue.
I'm sorry.
Somebody that's black in the media.
I'm sorry. Excuse me. And I'm going to call her out with that being her issue.
Yeah, but why do you care?
Easy.
If she doesn't care, why should she care?
Easy.
She's running for president. She wants to
I got
president.
it.
She has a
Precisely.
obligation to talk
she doesn't have an obligation to do black media.
Yes, she does.
Yes,
she does. You damn right.
Goodness.
Because I
damn
don't want to
right.
hear them later on if they didn't support black
You
people.
damn right.
She's talking
Now,
to
let me
black
ask you-
groups and organizations.
Who?
And she's talking to black voters. voters.
He has been here.
And she's not doing black media.
But
I don't like it.
Listen, let me
but
tell you
she's
something.
got a right to do that.
If a week and a half out before the South Carolina primary, she's asking the DNC, can you send me some list of some black churches? She ain't talking to black voters.
A week and a half out from South Carolina, if she calls you, do you say yes?
I'm saying yes to everybody. Let me be.
Do you say yes if she calls you a week before the South Carolina primary?
Let me be clear.
But she wants to do black media
Let me
now?
be clear. Let me be clear. We've had between this show and my TJ and Tom Jordan Morning Show segment before it went off, December 31st. We had Senator Warren, Senator Harris, Senator Booker, Julian Castro, Beto O'Rourke, Pete Buttigieg, Marianne Williamson, Andrew Yang, Tom Steyer. We've had Bernie Sanders.
Tulsi.
We've had we ain't had Tulsi.
Oh my God.
Wait a minute now.
Tulsi.
We've had Delaney. We've had Delaney. I talked to Tim Ryan. So all
another big name there.
Why
all
does
those folks.
Amy
Right.
Klobuchar for why she's not talking to you?
The three people
You missed
who
the big name.
No. So here's the deal. Here's what happened. When Biden got into the race, his campaign hit me and they said, hey, it was a Wednesday, April 24th. They offered up a surrogate to come on Tom Jordan Morning Show. I said no. There will be no surrogates until the candidate comes on.
Yep.
So Biden did the interview with Tom Joyner. I wasn't a part of the interview. It was on a different day. Okay? So Biden came on Joyner. Biden hasn't come on this show, and I've made it clear to his campaign team, no surrogate from the Joe Biden campaign will be allowed to come onto this show before the candidate comes on. That is a rule that I had at Tom Joyner. It was a rule that I had at TV One's News One Now. It was a rule that I had at Washington Watch. That's always been my rule there. I will not take
Sanders has done it. Sanders has done it.
And in fact, the Sanders people, they've had multiple surrogates on. They're actually trying to set up a second interview with him as well. Same with Buttigieg. Same with Warren. We're working on also possible town halls with them as well. But here's the point here. As someone in black media, as somebody who's also the lawyer for NAACP, the black newspapers, you should understand this. And that is, you.
It all.
No. And what it is you have to call those folks out who want to ignore black media. And so you do it quietly. We gave them a whole month. I'm talking about, this is not like we emailed and called and they hit us back. No.
But it doesn't have to be race-based as to why she hadn't done your show.
Okay, so this is
She might be
She do my be. Yeah, she was just on CNN
okay. First of all, no. First of all, that's cute. That's cute.
She doesn't want to identify the questions for black media.
Make sure her Midwestern folks see her.
She covers her base.
Right.
Black people ain't her base.
And make sure they hear the argument that they can come home to her.
Okay.
You know, but the thing is this, the base of the Democratic Party are black people, particularly black women. She needs to come to black media.
And she's running.
And you know what? She doesn't have to. You know why she don't have to?
She raised $12 million over last week. She's going to be around
Why
there.
isn't that enough?
She needs
She's
to
not
come
going
and
to win
address.
the nomination.
Let me tell you
That's
something.
the
If she wants
downside
to
for
lead
her.
this country, she needs to address every aspect of it, including black media and black people.
But that's why she's not going to win.
If she was
I agree.
1, 2, or 3, I could understand that. And I'm not letting her off the hook.
Right.
What I'm saying is, the fact that she's not doing black media, or apparently not doing black media, that's her loss, and it shows in the polls.
Scott, it doesn't matter if it's her loss. What I am going to do is be very consistent.
Right.
I'm going to call people out.
Right.
So, Amy, I'm calling you out again.
Where you
This
at?
is real simple, Amy.
Where you at?
If you say you want all voters, you better talk to black people. You're polling at 0.5% among black people. And so, Scott, I don't care about how it's all up to her. Again, it's called accountability. And this is it. If you want to appeal to black voters, you're going to talk to black media, and I'm just going to keep calling you out until you do. And if you want to keep ignoring us, that's not a problem. If you don't want to reschedule with color change, that's not a problem. If you don't want to talk to black newspapers, that's not a problem. But what I am going to do, I'll let black voters know that you won't talk to black media, and you also are ignoring black journalists at mainstream organizations. Would you like me to do a roll call? I have receipts.
Uh-oh. Well, she certainly ought to be dealing with black journalists. But let me ask you something. Maybe this format this format that we're in right now, maybe it's not best for her. Maybe
say
she'd
it
like
again.
to take it another.
Let
maybe she'd like to do another format.
Let me say it again. Harris,
Listen.
Booker,
Everybody
Warren,
wait.
Steyer, Yang,
But she's
Williamson.
different. Maybe she's
Excuse me. So everybody else has done it except you? Nice try. Scott, try to find new defense. All right, y'all.
Next
Be sure to support what we do at RolandMartinUnfiltered.com by going to our website, join our Bring the Funk fan club. Scott
And who
finally,
gave you?
Scott
Who gave you
finally
money?
gave. First of all, let me tell y'all what happened.
And how much did I give?
Let me tell y'all what happened.
I invested.
Let me tell you what happened. Scott
You have to get
sat
in all
here.
that.
Lots of bets.
So
You have to get in all
Scott
that.
being a Kappa, did not like the alpha shirt I'm wearing.
It's inappropriate.
And he also don't like this.
It's
He also don't like this alpha ring.
It's inappropriate.
Kiss that ring.
Oh,
Kiss that
my
ring.
God.
Kiss that ring.
It hurts.
So
It hurts.
he said,
I wish you had
"I'll
Jane.
pay you." He said, "Why can't you wear a suit? Why can't you wear a jacket?" He said, "I'll pay you $10,000 if you put a jacket on and take that off."
That was
So I
withdrawal.
told Chelsea, "Go to my office." To get
A suit jacket.
Chelsea, bring me that. So I told him, now
A
y'all,
suit jacket.
Teresa, sit right. Teresa, did he say jacket?
I said suit jacket.
Teresa, he said jacket.
Okay, wait a minute.
Suit jacket.
Teresa, did he say
Did I
jacket?
say suit jacket? Here we go.
He
We're gonna
said
find
jacket.
Out who's
All
who
right,
now. We're gonna find out who's who.
You know
Did
what?
I say suit jacket?
Here is the
I'm a
truth.
moderate dim too.
Come on.
'Cause you said
Come on, what did he say?
Roland, he said jacket,
I said-
and then you said,
He said jacket.
Then I said suit jacket.
So
then you
so
said
Chelsea
blazer.
then he goes to put on an outfit
went to my
jacket.
office, got my jacket.
You need a poll up.
That's- you're
Is
just
this a
trying to be
suit?
cute.
Is this a suit
Got-
jacket?
got
You
my
know I didn't
jacket.
mean
Or
that.
is this a
You know I
windbreaker?
didn't mean that.
Hey.
You know I didn't mean that.
If you
Oh,
tell me,
my
okay.
Put up the poll.
I didn't
So
mean
then
that.
he was
Oh,
like,
God.
"Oh, damn, he got me."
No,
Oh,
He
and then it was like,
I
if you,
said that's too
then
cute.
if you
can't
take
do
the
that.
jacket off, I'll
Right.
finally contribute 1,000 to the fan
That's
club.
right. That's right.
So I made his ass give me his American Express card, so I charged it right here. So Scott
sure did.
finally.
Are you bragging or complaining about me giving you $1,000?
No,
Which
first of all,
one?
it should have been 10,000,
Oh,
but you
please.
reneged. You're not a man of your word.
You,
I
you,
can tell you
you
who will not
attacked
be
me
my
too
stage
much
partner.
on this show. You attacked me too much on
I
this show.
caught a lie. I caught a
God.
lawyer.
I'm gonna wait. What do
He
you
did.
expect?
It
caught
was
a
good.
lawyer.
What do you
He
expect?
did.
Nigga live on air.
see.
God knows what he'll do in the stage table.
It's
Don't
two
ever
people.
mess with a man that's got his own show.
It's two people.
Don't ever mess
It's
with
two
a man that's got his own show.
It's two people. You should always be careful when it comes to words.
Lawyer.
And who's that?
Lawyers and journalists.
Yeah.
Oh, well, yeah.
I pay attention
You know what I
to all
meant.
of it. No,
You know what I meant.
Oh, that's what got
You
you
know
in
what
trouble.
I meant.
let me be real clear.
I didn't mean put on an alpha jacket.
Y'all,
And you know that.
if this was a court of law,
Oh, I'd win.
the judge would say,
I'd
the,
win.
Not with this witness.
the judge would say
What? I'm
overruled.
sorry. You didn't pay me.
You can get back on the show. You ain't got to back
You didn't pay me. You didn't
Bottom
pay
line,
me.
y'all, go to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com.
Quid
Join
pro
our Bring the
quo.
Funk fan club. You can give via Square, PayPal, of course, as well as
Y'all give.
Cash App as
I
well.
finally gave.
Every dollar for this show goes to support what we do. I'll be traveling tomorrow to Los Angeles for the NAACP Image Awards American Black Film Festival honors. We'll be live in LA. I'll be there on Friday. I'll be traveling tomorrow, so I'll be a guest host tomorrow. I'll be live from the show on Friday from Los Angeles, and we'll be live from the red carpet at the NAACP Pre-Show on Friday. Then on Saturday, we'll be live from the NAACP Image Awards red carpet, and then on Sunday, live from the American Black Film Festival honors red carpet there as well. Then, of course, I fly back on Monday, and then next Tuesday, we'll be in South Carolina for 3 days for, of course, the debate there as well. So looking forward to all of that. All right, folks, I got to go. Y'all enjoy the debate tonight. We have a great conversation about it tomorrow. I got to go. Holla!
Hey.